Hey everyone. Ever feel like the way we connect with something bigger than ourselves is kind of changing? Like maybe those old school religions are they having a bit of a crisis, like an identity crisis in our tech obsessed world?
Hmm.
Well, you're in the right place because today we're diving deep into this very question.
Oh, okay.
We've got a fascinating article titled, Will Traditional Religions Survive the Rise of Mysticism and Technology?
It's a provocative title, that's for
It
sure.
really is.
Yeah, and you know what I find particularly interesting?
What's that?
It's that this is from Grandmaster WaXhira
Oh, wow. Yeah.
of the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood.
Definitely not your typical commentator.
No, not at all.
So, for those of us who might not be super familiar, could you give us a little background on the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood and why their perspective on this is so intriguing?
Absolutely. The Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, they're a modern mystical organization. They draw on a variety of ancient traditions, including things like Egyptian mysteries and Hermetic philosophy.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and they really emphasize personal experience
Okay,
and direct revelation as like pathways to spiritual knowledge,
I see.
which, it puts them in a really interesting position
Yeah,
to comment on this whole evolution of traditional religions.
it makes a lot of sense. So, let's jump into the article itself. One of the things that really jumped out at me was this idea that traditional religions are struggling to stay relevant
And
in our information age.
yeah,
What's your take on that?
I think there's a lot of truth to that. In the past,
Yeah,
religious institutions, they held a monopoly on knowledge
that's true.
and spiritual authority.
Right.
But with information so readily available now, they're questioning doctrines, they're seeking their own answers.
Mm.
There's less blind faith, I think,
Definitely, yeah.
and more of a desire for personal understanding
I see that.
and experience.
And the article seems to suggest that mysticism, with its focus on inner exploration and direct connection to the divine, is kind of filling that void for a lot of people, especially younger generations. Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. I think one key factor is individualism, the rise of individualism.
Okay.
Younger generations, they're growing up in a world that really emphasizes personal choice and self-discovery.
For sure.
They're less likely to accept something just because, it's what their parents or society tells them.
Mm.
They want to find their own truth.
Right. And maybe they're also a little less trusting of institutions in general.
Yeah, maybe.
We've seen a decline in trust, I think, across the board, in government, in the media, big corporations. Maybe organized religion is just another institution that's kind of falling out of favor a little bit.
That's a really interesting point. There's definitely a growing skepticism, I think, towards authority figures
Yeah.
and traditional hierarchies.
Yeah.
And, younger generations, they're looking for more egalitarian and authentic ways of connecting.
Interesting.
And I think that extends to their spiritual lives.
Makes sense. So the article uses this really powerful phrase, from ignorance to illumination, to describe this shift
Oh,
away from blind faith and towards a more personal, experiential understanding of spirituality. Can you unpack that for us a little?
Yeah. I think the idea is that in the past, ignorance or a lack of readily available knowledge may have contributed to people simply accepting religious doctrines without question.
Okay.
But now, with access to so much information, different perspectives, people are seeking a more enlightened and illuminated understanding,
Yeah.
based on their own exploration and experience.
And it's interesting, the article points to the rising popularity of practices like yoga and meditation as evidence of that.
Oh, for sure.
These practices that were once considered, niche or even fringe, they're mainstream now.
Yeah.
Why do you think they've resonated with so many people?
Well, I think there are a few reasons. First, there's a growing body of scientific research
Oh, interesting.
that supports the benefits of these practices,
Yeah.
both for physical and mental well-being.
Yeah.
People are drawn to them for like stress reduction
Yeah.
and improved focus and emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also a deeper draw.
What do you mean?
I think these practices, they offer a tangible way to connect with a sense of inner peace and stillness,
I can see that.
a sense of something beyond the everyday grind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that a lot of people are craving
Absolutely. Yeah.
in our fast-paced, technology-driven world.
It almost feels like these practices offer a way to find that direct experience that the article talks about, like
Right.
a way to connect with something spiritual without necessarily having to go through a traditional religious institution.
Exactly. And that's why I think the perspective of the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood is so interesting here. They're coming from a tradition that values um, direct experience and personal revelation. And they're suggesting that traditional religions, that they need to adapt
Yeah.
to this growing desire for a more experiential and individualized spirituality.
So it's like we've got this tension
Yeah.
between these ancient traditions and a growing desire for personal experience.
It is, yeah.
The question is, can those two worlds coexist?
Right.
Can traditional religions adapt to this new spiritual landscape?
Yeah.
Or are we witnessing the emergence of something totally new?
It's hard to say.
It feels like we're really at a crossroads here, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
On the one hand, you've got these ancient institutions,
Mhm.
deeply rooted in tradition and history.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's this surge of interest in practices that, emphasize individual exploration and direct experience.
It's fascinating, really. It's a fascinating dynamic.
It is. And what makes it even more intriguing
Yeah.
is that the lines are starting to blur a little.
I think so.
The article mentions how even within, traditional religions, there's a growing interest in things like contemplative prayer and mindfulness,
Right.
which, have some similarities to Eastern mystical traditions.
Definitely. There's some overlap there.
It's almost like there's this convergence happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a blending of these different approaches to spirituality. But the big question is, can traditional religions really embrace this shift?
Yeah.
Can they adapt without compromising their core doctrines, their, core beliefs?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Change can be difficult,
It can.
especially for, institutions that have been around for centuries.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a risk that some religious leaders might see these mystical practices as a threat.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, like as a dilution of their authority
Wow.
or a departure from their core teachings.
The article even mentions the possibility of a backlash,
Yeah.
a doubling down on those, traditional beliefs and practices as a reaction to this rise of mysticism.
Mm.
Have you seen any evidence of that?
Oh, definitely. There are definitely groups and individuals within various, religious traditions who are pushing back against what they perceive as a watering down of their faith.
Interesting.
They see this emphasis on personal experience
Yeah.
and individual interpretation. They see that as a slippery slope
Oh, wow.
towards relativism
I see.
and a loss of absolute truth.
Which makes the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood's perspective all the more interesting, right?
Exactly.
They seem to be advocating for a more inclusive and adaptable approach to spirituality.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
And, they believe that this shift toward personal exploration
Mhm,
and
mhm.
direct experience, it's actually a sign of a spiritual awakening.
Really?
They see it as humanity, like evolving,
Wow.
becoming more aware of its own potential.
But how does that fit in with the idea of traditional religions?
Wow.
Are they suggesting that these institutions need to completely reinvent themselves?
No, not necessarily. I think they're suggesting that traditional religions can evolve
Yeah, okay.
by incorporating elements of, mysticism, by emphasizing the importance of inner experience alongside, doctrine and ritual.
So, for example, a church might offer a meditation class alongside their traditional Sunday service.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a synagogue might incorporate mindfulness techniques into, study groups or something.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to bridge that gap, to create a space for both traditional practices and individual exploration.
But that raises another question, I think.
What's that?
How do you balance that need for individual exploration with the sense of community
Right.
and shared beliefs that traditional religions offer? Isn't there a risk of losing that sense of of belonging
Yeah.
if everyone is just focusing on their own, personal spiritual journey.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
I think the key is to create, communities that value both individual growth
Okay.
and shared experience.
So it's not an either-or situation. It's
Yeah.
not about choosing like between traditional religion or mysticism.
Right.
It's about finding a way to integrate the two to
Exactly.
create a more holistic and multifaceted approach to spirituality.
Precisely. And I think that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about adapting existing institutions.
Okay.
It's also about the possibility of entirely new spiritual movements emerging.
Oh, wow.
Movements that are built from the ground up
Interesting.
with this emphasis on personal experience
Hmm.
and individual exploration.
That's a fascinating thought. Are there any examples of those kinds of movements already taking shape?
Well, absolutely. We're seeing a rise in interest in things like neo-paganism
Okay.
and shamanism and various forms of earth-based spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
These movements, they often draw on ancient tradition,
Okay.
but they're also very much rooted in the present moment,
Right.
emphasizing a direct connection with nature and a sense of personal empowerment.
So it's like we're witnessing the birth of a whole new spiritual landscape,
Yeah, in a way.
one that's more diverse
For sure.
and more fluid and more responsive to the needs and desires of individuals.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this whole conversation so compelling.
It is.
It's not just about the future of religion.
Yeah.
It's about the future of how we connect to something, something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
How we find meaning and purpose in a world that's, that's constantly changing.
And that brings us back to the listener. Because ultimately, this isn't just an abstract philosophical debate.
Yep.
It's about the choices that we make, the paths that we choose to explore, the ways that we, connect with something beyond the everyday. It really feels like we're like right on the verge of something big here.
Yeah.
This whole conversation,
Yeah.
About traditional religion and mysticism. It's not just an academic debate. It's about how we, how we understand ourselves, our place in the universe,
For sure.
what we ultimately believe in.
Absolutely. And what strikes me is that this isn't just about individual beliefs.
What do you mean?
It has the potential to reshape our entire culture.
Wow, yeah.
Imagine a world where spirituality is less about, dogma and more about personal experience,
Okay.
where the emphasis is on inner transformation and connecting with something, greater than ourselves.
It's a pretty radical idea, right?
It is, yeah.
To move away from these rigid structures that have, defined spirituality for centuries. And embrace this more fluid, personalized approach.
It is radical, yeah. But I think it's also incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
It opens up so many possibilities.
Like what?
Imagine a world where science and spirituality are no longer seen as, as opposing forces,
Oh, interesting.
but rather complementary ways of understanding the universe.
That's what I find so intriguing about the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood's perspective, I think. They seem to be like advocating for a spirituality that embraces both the scientific and the mystical,
Exactly.
the rational and the intuitive.
They talk about the importance of inquiry, of questioning assumptions and seeking knowledge from all sources. It's a very different approach from the the blind faith that has often been associated with traditional religion.
And it seems to be resonating with a lot of people,
It does.
especially those who are, maybe a little disillusioned with organized religion,
Right.
but still yearning for that sense of meaning, for connection.
Absolutely. And I think that's why we're seeing such a surge of interest in alternative spiritual practices, in ancient wisdom traditions, in mindfulness and meditation. People are hungry
They are.
for something that speaks to their hearts and minds, something that helps them, make sense of the world
Yeah.
and their place in it.
So what do you think? Are we witnessing like the decline of traditional religion, or is this just a pendulum swing that'll eventually swing back?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And I honestly don't think anyone has the definitive answer.
Yeah.
What I do think is that we're in a period of profound transformation,
Okay.
a spiritual evolution,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
will. And the outcome of that evolution
Yeah.
still very much in flux.
So it's not about predicting the future.
Mm.
It's about being open to the possibilities, to
Exactly.
the different ways that spirituality might manifest,
Mm.
in the years to come.
And for the listener, I think the most important takeaway is this.
What's that?
Don't be afraid to explore.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to question your own beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
your own assumptions. Don't be afraid to seek out, your own truth,
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
Because ultimately, that's what this is all about, right?
It is.
It's about each of us finding our own path,
Right.
finding our own way of connecting with something larger than ourselves.
Exactly.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all those big questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of spirituality. It's been enlightening.
It has.